membership tonight, she said is free. Normally it's $20, an annual $20 membership. So tonight you get to get a free membership. So be sure to take advantage of it. And there's information on the back table about Vote, the mission, and what we represent. So now you will hear from the president, Mrs. Sonia Stevenson of the Orange County Black Democratic Caucus.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Stevenson. I'm the president of the Orange County Democratic Black Caucus, and thank you all so much for coming out. We too also focus on getting the vote out. We do know that the Black community, there is a low propensity opportunity for them to vote. So we want to make sure that we're all getting the numbers out so that we can all make sure that we're voting. Sorry about that. I only had about 3 hours of sleep. But the whole idea is this collaboration is for us to increase the vote in August the 18th, and we're doing that. The Black Caucus have called over 40,000 voters to this date. We've knocked on close to 1,000 voters. Currently, I can pride myself in saying this. Currently, we are the only organization in Orange County, correct me if I'm wrong, with boots on the ground. Right. So if you want to join us, Commissioner Hill over here, she's been out there walking with us. So if you want to come out and join us, I believe we're going to be canvassing again this weekend. August 8th, we're going to be doing another massive canvass. So if you are able to join us, please come out and join us. We have got to turn this state blue, and we got to do everything that we got to turn this state blue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. So you guys need to get involved. You have to get involved. You know, people, so often you hear, I don't do politics. But if you don't do politics, politics will definitely do you. So it's time for you to get out there, boots on the ground. As much as I hate hearing that song, and you know, get ready to start dancing. Okay, boots on the ground. You gotta get out and join. So Saturday, August 8th. So we're going to keep this show on the road. So now you've heard from our community partners or collaborating partners, Vote, the president and the president from the Black Caucus. So I'm going to have Sonia Stevenson to come back up, and she is going to introduce to you our man of the hour, the gubernatorial candidate for governor of Florida.
All right, I did prepare a speech, and I do wear glasses, so be mindful of that. All right, so this evening, we want to welcome a leader who understands the unique challenges and opportunities facing our state, and who is ready to meet this moment with bold, people-centered solutions. David Jolly brings a vision for Florida that prioritizes affordability, opportunity, and fairness. He knows that too many Florida families are being squeezed by rising housing costs, skyrocketing property insurance, and an economy that is not working for everyone. That's why he is committed to tackling the property insurance crisis, expanding access to affordable housing, and creating economic pathways that allow working families not just to survive, but to thrive. He is a strong advocate for protecting voting rights here in Florida, ensuring that every eligible voter can participate freely and fairly in our democracy. He believes in fully funding our public schools, supporting our teachers, and making sure every child, no matter their zip code, has access to a quality education. David Jolly also understands that healthcare access, I'm coming straight from work. Okay. David Jolly also understands that healthcare access remains a critical issue in our state. He supports expanding access to affordable healthcare, lowering prescription drug costs, and ensuring that no Floridian has to choose between their health and their financial stability. And the state on the front lines of climate change, he recognizes the urgent need to protect Florida's environment, addressing rising sea levels, investing in resilient infrastructure, and safeguarding our coastlines, clean water, and natural resources for future generations. Above all, David Jolly believes in ethical leadership, standing up to special interests, demanding transparency, and restoring trust in government so that it truly works for the people of Florida. At a time when division has taken center stage, he offers a different kind of leadership, one rooted in unity, respect, and a shared commitment to moving Florida forward. So tonight, it is my great honor to introduce a leader ready to fight for Florida's future with integrity, courage, and a clear vision for progress. Please join me in welcoming David Jolly.
Very much. Thank you. After that introduction, I don't have anything to say. What do we have, 2 or 3 hours for opening comments? I know we want to get to a lot of Q&A. Let me just make, maybe 10 minutes or so of introductory comments. I see a lot of friends in the room, folks. We're 14, 15 months into this. Many of us have been along the trail. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you. As I said, a year and a half ago, I went around the state just asking people to believe for just one moment that possibly we can see change in the state of Florida. Folks, I'm telling you here tonight, we're going to win this race. We're going to win this race. But we've got 98 days of some rough waters ahead of us, and I need your help. I need your help. We all need each other's help to actually accomplish something that defies history, which is electing a Democratic governor in the state of Florida. But listen, for Democrats, we know why we're doing this, but this is bigger than our party. This is bigger than our party. And I want to say thank you to the independents and Republicans in the room tonight, because I know there's some of you in here. You don't have to identify yourself. I say, whatever's on your voter registration card, we got something in common. I was a Republican in Congress. I spent 5 or 6 years as an independent. I'm a proud Florida Democrat, not a reluctant one. But this moment is bigger than party. I didn't join the Democratic Party to try to change it. I joined it because I found my home. And I think we need to amplify our values in a way that bring in independents and Republicans into a coalition. Because math is math, folks. There aren't enough Democrats in the state of Florida tonight to elect a Democrat. We have to do something differently. That doesn't mean changing our values. It means amplifying them. You're going to hear me talk about that a little bit. But let me, a little bit more of an introduction on the personal side. Some of you, I don't want to take for granted that you know who I am. I'm a candidate running for governor, yes, and I need your help, but most importantly, I'm a husband and a father of a 7-year-old and 5-year-old children. Yeah, you don't have to Google it. I'm 53. I'm watching for people reaching for their phones at 7 and 5. You're right. Yeah, 7 and 5, and every day's a Monday in our house, folks. Every day's a Monday. But the perfect time to run for governor because they're out of diapers and not on social media, so it's perfect. They measure the entire trail based on whether or not the hotel has a lazy river. And I'll tell you, Orlando has a lot of hotels with lazy rivers, so thank you for the lazy rivers in the great Orlando area. I was born in Pinellas. My father was a minister. We moved around the state, lived in Miami 10 or 12 years. Lived in Pasco County, Dade City, graduated from Pasco High. This was in the 80s when Dade City was kind of, off the edge of the earth a bit. I lived in Pensacola, 5th generation Floridian. I've lived all over the state. I did have the opportunity to serve in Congress. I'm an attorney, had the opportunity to be on TV a bit as well. The last thing I'll tell you, and please show me grace here, I speak openly about my faith. I don't shy away from my faith, right? When you make an introduction, you get to know somebody, we talk about husband, wife, we talk about kids, we talk about where we live. Yes, faith is part of my compass. It is how I live my life. I celebrate my faith every single day. I draw strength from it. But I also talk about my faith for this reason, not to evangelize. That's not the role of a candidate. That's not the role of a governor. And I think it's important in the state that launched culture wars 8 years ago based on the perversion of faith and religion that we have a governor who understands their personal and private faith stops at the steps to the state house. So I'll also tell you, we all draw our basic values from somewhere, whether it's faith, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever that faith might be, or whether it's no faith at all. Listen, the affinity I've built with those who consider themselves atheists or agnostics, who on most days are far more charitable than those of us who declare a personal faith. Whether it is what Jefferson declared as the natural rights of man, or the experiment that our founders had towards human liberty, personal freedom, we all share a basic set of values. And so, before getting to Q&A, let me tell you about those values that we have oriented our campaign around. Values, not policies. We can talk through some policies. I think there's three basic values that allowed me to find my home in the Democratic Party. Values I tried to fight for as a Republican, some as an independent, but yes, I found in the Democratic Party. And listen, we'll talk about change. Change is part of my story, and I don't run from it. I think it's an important conversation. But three values. Rooted in democratic tradition, I would argue, from FDR to JFK to Obama and so many others, but bigger than our party, big enough to bring in independents and Republicans. The first value is that the economy should work for everybody. The economy should work for everybody. And what that means, in my estimation, is let's congratulate success and encourage success and reward success. A lot of people work very hard to create opportunities in a capitalist economy. Congratulations, God bless you. But the economy's not working for everybody, and we know that. Today, half of the state does not have enough savings to last 2 weeks. They can't absorb a car repair, a lost job, a divorce, whatever it might be. We have more people going without health care than ever before in Florida history, and as a result, we're 49th in avoidable hospital costs. In a state that began attacking public education 25 years ago and has gone to universal choice with no rules, Florida's families don't know where to educate their kids. Workers can't live in the community in which they work, and homeowners are losing their homes because of an insurance market that has collapsed. The economy's not working for everybody, and it's okay to recognize that. Just as the other side of the aisle, I am happy to recognize where we have seen success from this governor. Let's keep going. That's great. We don't have to be so partisan that we say, no, we got to do everything differently. Where we are seeing economic growth in South Florida, great, let's continue it. But if the economy's not working for everybody, we're going to cripple economic resiliency, and instead of becoming the financial capital of the world, we're going to become the Hamptons, where nobody can actually live in the community in which they work. So if the economy should work for everyone, the second value is the corollary to that, which is that government can do a little bit to improve our lives. Smart decisions, investment decisions, levering the public investments that government has made since World War II in the basics of people's personal economy. Housing, healthcare, education, quality of life, clean air, clean water, safe communities. Look, where the private sector has a solution, great, go do it. It will be more efficient than government. But the private sector will never be incented to do certain things. That's why, since World War II, we have used government to invest in upward mobility, economic mobility for the most number of people. What do I mean by that? Development will always chase the highest profit margin. And as a result, we are seeing development across the state of 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage homes, right? That's fine. That's the profit model, and we shouldn't expect them to do differently. So what do we need to do? We need to expand public-private partnerships to deliver entry-level units and more affordable and workforce housing in communities. If we need government as the investor and the partner to do that, then let's do that. Frankly, the homeowners insurance market has collapsed and it's not coming back. It's being held together by Band-Aids and popsicle sticks, and we're being told to say thank you for a rate freeze. But the reality is, in a state that has abandoned climate science and refused to recognize climate science, there is not a market-based way to affordably cover hurricane and wind. So, I think we need a state catastrophic fund in the state of Florida. Fully remove hurricane and wind coverage from the private market, put it in the state sovereign wealth fund, and cut insurance by 60 to 70%. We can do that if we accept that government has a role in improving our lives and reducing costs. What are a couple other areas where government can help out? Healthcare being a great one, right? So the private sector will continue to chase a healthcare model where they can draw profit. That's what the private sector does. But the private sector is never going to chase a model that provides healthcare to the uninsured and the underinsured. We actually need the responsible social investments that government can sometimes provide. And here's the thing. You can be a progressive that agrees more people need healthcare, or be a conservative that thinks we need to cut costs to the taxpayer, and we end up in exactly the same place. Why? For this reason. More people are going without healthcare than ever before, and as a result, we're 49th in avoidable hospital costs. We know from the other 40 states that have expanded Medicaid that when you create access to primary health care services, you improve health outcomes and you reduce costs. I will tell you, yes, I support Medicaid expansion, but I think we need to go further. I think we need to scale up the direct delivery of primary health care in all 67 counties being the goal. Now, here's the thing, and I know we're in a room where some of this is going to get videotaped and sent right back to Byron Donalds, and they're going to put it online tonight, and they're going to say, "Oh, watch out, Jolly's saying all this Mandami stuff." Guess what? No, Byron, I'm not. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Byron? Let's declare victory with some Republican-funded models and scale it up and make it work. You know why? Here's why. I'll give you some examples of what we currently do in the state of Florida that shows effectiveness. In Miami-Dade County, in Little Haiti, there's a faith-based nonprofit that sees 300 patients every week, regardless of the ability to pay. It's improved qualitative outcomes for health, and it's also reduced costs to the community. In Broward, it's 6 county health clinics. It's in Pensacola, it's federally qualified health centers. Guess what? When we deliver health care, we reduce costs. I've spoken to the healthcare administrators at these agencies and said, if we were to fund it in Levy and Lafayette and Putnam and some of the rural healthcare deserts, could you deliver the same results? And they say, yes, we could start tomorrow. So chase what's working. Use Republican platforms. Declare success and scale it up. Government can do that to improve our lives. The last area where I talk about government improving our lives is this. So I do think the 3 pillars of people's personal economy, right? If we're suffering from an affordability crisis, what does that actually mean? What it means is people's personal economy is centered around housing, healthcare, and education. Sure, transportation comes in, food, gas, and so forth. But if you take those 3 main pillars, the last one is education. Why is that part of the economic crisis for too many families? It is because 25 years ago, we declared war on public education. We defunded our schools, and we set up choice schools and charged tuition on top of vouchers, and families don't know where to educate their kids. It is a crisis in the state. It is a crisis in the state. And we're at the point of this campaign where I'm using a little more blunt language. 25 years ago, we were sold on school choice with a very specific image in our mind. And you all know where I'm going with this. Jeff sold us on school choice, and he showed us black and brown communities across the state. And he said they need economic and educational mobility because their schools are failing. And if we give them vouchers, they can go to different schools. Well, guess what? In an environment 25 years later where there is no means testing, where 70% of school vouchers went to kids who are already enrolled in private school, and where schools get to charge tuition on top of vouchers, we've disenfranchised the very families that Jeff said we were trying to help 25 years ago. So I think we need a 10-year renaissance in public education. Public education. And look, these are values, folks. This is just a choice. Policy conversations flow from this. We should lead the world in public education. We should choose to lead the world in public education. Why not? It's our taxpayer dollars. It creates economic resiliency and it transforms lives. Forget about just trying to move from 49 to 48. Forget about trying to be better than Alabama or Mississippi. God bless it. Let's be better than China and India. Let's lead the world in public education. Folks, we pay our public school teachers dead last in the nation. And it's a moral wrong. I don't care what's on your voter registration card. We're 40th in per capita spending. And as a result, our 8th grade test scores are falling off the cliff and we are losing students. We are losing opportunity for our youth. So yes, government could give us a 10-year renaissance in public education, move teachers into the top half of pay nationally, recover our failing properties, invest in secondary services. And then what I've said about choice, and look, I'm a different type of Democrat, I realize that. We'll keep choice, but a whole new set of rules. If you take a voucher, you should have to provide the same services, standards, offerings, academics, I'm looking around the room, I don't know how many parents of 7-year-olds we have in this room. There may be a few, some rooms no, there's never one. A lot of 7-year-old grandkids, but listen folks, a choice school in the state of Florida tonight does not have to teach a kid to read. I know that sounds crazy to folks who don't have an experience right now with education in the state of Florida. A first grade kid who can't read, a choice school gets to kick them out. They say, go back to public school, we're gonna keep the $8,500 voucher, send us the kid who can read. Because a choice school doesn't have to provide an individual education program, special services. If your kid is college bound, they don't have to provide trigonometry, access to the trades and the arts, they don't have to do any of that. So let's lead with public education. Create a public education system where Florida's families want to rush into it. And then if we keep choice, it's a whole new set of rules. You're going to provide the same services, the same standards, the same offerings. But, oh, by the way, we're going to means test it. We're going to means test it. Because vouchers have now become a product for white suburban neighborhoods in the state of Florida. And that's the one. Here's another fun part. Look, I've been out of politics long enough to tell the truth, folks. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. People say, Charlie, don't your kids go to a little church school? My Republican opponents say, Charlie's kids go to a little church school. Yes, you know why? Because my wife and I are living the crisis of Florida's education system. And as a fifth-generation Floridian, I don't know where to educate my kids. Because the local elementary school has been defunded, it's being held together by the love and commitment of the teachers that remain there. But everyone in our neighborhood drives right past it every day because it's an 80-year-old facility with a playground that's a dusty field under an oak tree. You can see the strain and the stress, and they put the shiny schools next to it, the voucher schools, but guess what? Once you get there, you realize these schools don't have to educate your kids. That is a crisis, folks. So yes, the economy should work, but government can do a little bit to improve our lives. Housing, healthcare, education, yes, investments in clean air and clean water, safe communities. We should be a state that's tough on crime, but we should fight crime and not fight communities. This governor right now is trying to convince us that the greatest threat we face is the immigrant community. Folks, there's a higher propensity of violent and property crimes in native-born communities than there are in immigrant communities. This governor's not fighting crime, he's fighting communities, and it's wrong. The third value, and I'll close with this. I mentioned the economy should work. Government can do a little bit to improve our lives. The third value is simple, and I find it rooted in democratic tradition. We should be a state where everyone's rights are protected and their dignity is celebrated. Regardless of the color of your skin, where you were born, who you love, or who you worship. And yes, if that sounds like ending the culture wars, yes, we're going to end the culture wars on day one. And friends, I say this as somebody I know that I don't know everybody in the room, and I hope this doesn't go crosswise. I say this as somebody who celebrates my Christian faith. Raised by a Southern Baptist pastor in the South, in the 70s, in the 80s. You can imagine that environment. But I know enough to know that it is wrong to marginalize communities and to attack communities. And whether you believe in the teachings of faith that everybody is created beautifully or what Thomas Jefferson declared as the natural rights of man, we have got to stop the culture wars in the state of Florida. We need to live Protecting people's rights, we have a playbook, the Constitution, we have laws. We go to court, we win more than we lose, and over the long arc of history, it bends towards progress. So whether it's voting rights or reproductive freedom, both under attack, we keep pushing and it moves towards progress. But defending people's dignity is bigger than politics. Bigger than politics. It means a couple things. What does it look like? First, if a local community wants to celebrate their own, whether it's the LGBTQ plus community or whether it's a Black Lives Matter plaza, God bless you, I'll buy you a can of paint. Let's let teachers teach. Let's bring back the books. Let's teach history and all of history, not just the favorite parts of what we talk about. Some of you heard me say this, but every child in the state of Florida tonight should be learning about the Rosewood Massacre, about the Groveland Fort. Every child in the state of Florida should know that Mary T. Martin and Black were murdered on Christmas Day. And have the audacity to register voters of color. Every child in the state of Florida should know about the Pulse Club, the Pulse nightclub massacre as well. It doesn't shame us to know our history, it strengthens us. And we will never recognize the darker chapters of this moment if we don't learn the darker chapters of ours. There are victims of culture wars, but even if your family like mine may not be a direct victim, I don't want to raise my kids believing that it is okay to tolerate division and marginalization of people. I want my kids to have their comfort challenged in the classroom, to understand that everybody comes from different lived experiences. I want them to learn critical thinking. Bringing back, or ending the culture wars also means embracing science and data and math. All of the things that Legislation is not letting politicians scale up into the university presidency, but actually putting people in charge of that understand the impact of diversity on the higher education environment. And yes, it means recognizing public health requires science. You know what I need to do on my first day in office? Fire the Surgeon General. Listen. Those are the values. The economy should work for everyone. Government can do a little bit to make life easier, and everyone's rights should be protected and their dignity celebrated. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, an Independent, or a Republican. That's what we're asking for. What Bob Gray and Walter Giles used to talk about: responsible administration of government. Can you live in your community? Can you stay in your home? Do you know where to educate your kids? Can you get health care? Is the water clean? And do you feel safe at night? That's it. And you know what's happening on the other side of the aisle?
Nothing.
I'm telling you, there's 98 days to go, and we're getting the new year, folks. They're doing something right now that I thought they'd wait till August 19th to do. The White House got engaged last week, by the way, because they're scared to death. The White House is scared to death about the Florida governor. They know they have a flawed candidate in Myron Donalds. They know that the whole state understands that he's been bought by every senator. And they know that the people are rising up saying, no, we're going in a different direction. So what are they doing? They're trying the old playbook that I expected them to do, and I hope they do it for the next 6 weeks because it's not going to work. Maybe I shouldn't give them political advice, but they're hitting me on communism, socialism, and trans rights. And they're doing that for as long as they want. You know what they can't do with I didn't realize this, but about 2 years ago, I guess, on Easter Sunday, Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, a bunch of Republicans were hitting Joe Biden for his support of the trans community. I went on TV and said, you know, the God that they all celebrate today, that I celebrate as well, instructed us to love one another as much as you love yourself and as much as you love your own God. So they come at me this week. Oh, it's blasphemous. Charlie said we have to extend Christian love to the trans community. And I went online and just said, John 13:34, words were written in red. Here they are. Listen, so they're going to do this socialism, communism, trans thing. If there's somebody with a cell phone taking this fire, please keep doing it for as long as you want to do that. What they're ultimately going to do is try to break our trust in each other. They're trying something else that's not going to work. They started to say, Bobby saying this every day he goes out there. Watch out for Jolly. He's trying to unite us. Watch out for Jolly. He's a nice guy. He's going to talk about kindness and hope. Well, then what's he selling? Division, anger, lies. He's trying to inject into a moment of historic accomplishment for Florida's voters, a reason to break our spirits, and a reason to tell us that we can't believe in each other, folks. A year ago when we started, I was asking people to believe. And you know what I saw? You already do. In a moment when the nation is broken, when we're in crisis, we're more divided than ever before. Our leaders wake up in the mornings and tell us to hate each other. We are in what I believe to be a 1974 post-Watergate moment where enough voters are saying no. What John McCain said to that lady at the debate, no ma'am, we're not doing that anymore. This is a moment where we're burning the ships, and regardless of your party affiliation, saying we're going to do something differently. And I will end with this very clear statement. Yes, we're going to win this race. We, all of us, not the Jolly Grant campaign, all of us, we're going to win this race. And when we do it, it not only shapes the direction of Florida, but folks, it changes American politics when we do this. Because as Democrats who lack the number of registered voters to do it on our own, it necessarily means that we will have built a coalition that leads with the fundamental values that the economy should work, government can do a little bit to help it, everyone's rights should be protected, and we will do that in coalition with independents and Republicans. If your greatest concern right now tonight is the President of the United States, this is the ultimate answer, the biggest coda you could provide. And 10 years after he came down the escalator, Florida's voters, not David Jolly and Gwen Graham, Florida's voters rose up and said, no, we're not going in that direction anymore. No, we're not doing that anymore, because we believe in something better. We believe that we're better in this moment than where we are. And we believe that when we make responsible investments in people's own opportunity, that we create a more resilient economy, but we change lives as well. Listen, this is bigger than politics. We're litigating our national identity right now, and I need your help. Thank you all very much.
Amazing. You can go ahead and come out and take your seat. We're gonna give you just a few minutes to get yourself together. That was absolutely incredible. Are you all fired up? Are you ready to vote for Jolly? I absolutely love it. Right along, we have some questions that are going to be asked of Jolly. He has no idea what we're going to ask. He's going to be put on the hot seat. He's already sweating because everything he stood up there and said came directly from ChatGPT. No. That was truly inspirational. So we're going to catch him off guard. We were told that he really likes the tough questions. So we're going to move right along. And Maggie St. Jean, once again, president of Unvote, she has a couple of questions that she's going to ask him. She's going to come up. But ironically, there were quite a few questions that our organization and members have selected, and you actually addressed them. So, yeah, we were like, did he cheat on our paper? But we're the only ones that had it and brought it in the room, but we're like, scratch that. He's already answering it. So I'm going to turn it over to Maggie. She does have a couple of questions for you, okay?
All right. Some questions. As you know, I stand for the Haitian population, so my questions are going to be mainly based on the people that I represent. Okay, many Haitian American families in Florida are deeply concerned about the changes to immigration policies, including CPS, temporary protected status. If elected governor, what specific action would you take to advocate for and support Haitian families impacted by these federal policies?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And listen, I do like the hard questions, so think about your hard questions. It's a bit of a game show. I said this when I was in Congress in a room, this woman stood up and said, "Why aren't you wearing a wedding band?" I have my wedding band on. So I've advocated publicly for the extension of TPS. We should extend TPS. And listen, despite what the Supreme Court ruled, our congressional delegation could pass an extension of TPS tonight. 3 Republican members of Congress from South Florida actually agreed to do that. Rick Scott and Ashton Moody have not. And they need to hear from us. They need to hear from us. The other members of the Republican delegation in Florida have not heard from it either. My father was a missionary in Haiti in the 70s. My father spent about 18 months in Haiti. And let me just broadly share on immigration in addition to TPS. I think we need to be a state that that recognizes and celebrates the economic and cultural contributions of our immigrant community. I think our undocumented immigrants, if they are here without the commission of a crime, deserve a pathway to legal status and a pathway to work status. And for friends on the right who say, oh, he's talking amnesty, guess what? I'm just where Marco Rubio was and George Bush was and Ronald Reagan was. A lot of this issue is the Republicans who change a lot of this issue. I don't think the greatest threat we face is the undocumented immigrant who shows up on the job site every day for 12 years without so much as a speeding ticket. I think it's immoral and wrong that they get picked up and sent to alligator Alcatraz and separated from the kids. That doesn't mean the woman's up on crime. Listen, if you were born here, if you immigrated here, or if you're a politician who steals $10 million from the Medicaid program, I realize this is controversial for someone on the right as well. I think we should suspend the 287G agreements until we see the due process reforms. Until we see the due process reforms, show us the judicial warrant, and by the way, show us your face and show us your badge. Local law enforcement does it all the time without a mask and without hiding their badge. This is not look, everybody's gonna back the blue. I authored the Thin Blue Line Act, and when I was in Congress, I had the endorsement of many of the law enforcement organizations. Now I'm a Democrat, and one of them actually said, how do we know you're not going to be a crazy Democrat? I said, you know, my old party is the one where the president just pardoned a bunch of cop leaders.
Criminal.
So, anyway, I'm getting off topic. What I'll tell you is, look, let's go to values, and I'll keep this tight. I lived in Miami during the Mariel boat race. I lived in Miami when the city went from almost an old agricultural town to a multicultural international city as a result of immigration. You know, when the Mariel boat lift happened, we rounded up Cuban refugees and we put them in the Orange Bowl behind a chain link fence. Politically, it was very charged. What are we going to do? Jimmy Carter, Bob Graham, Mayor Ferre got together trying to figure out what to do. Carter left, Graham left, they haven't resolved it yet. Mayor Ferre went to the microphone and said, if we don't welcome the refugee, we might as well throw the Statue of Liberty into the East River. A value. Many of us know the sonnet that's affixed to the Statue of Liberty, the one line. Soon you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. You know what the line before that says? Keep, O distant lands, your storied home. Meaning old world nations, keep, you're rich, you're famous, you're fabulous, you're most successful, keep them. Send me, you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The next line, you're homeless, the wretched refuge of your teeming shore. Behold, I lift my lamp by the golden door. We are a nation made stronger because of the contribution of our immigrant communities, but it also honors who we are to give refuge and to embrace. And if the moral argument doesn't work for you, how about the economic argument? Haitian Americans own homes. Haitian Americans, particularly in the South Florida area, have a higher propensity of skilled nursing jobs that take care of people within their own community. Haitian Americans have had children, they're in our schools. And by the way, even if you entertain a conversation about TPS as being temporary, we currently don't let U.S. airlines land in Haiti for fear of violence and being shot at. We have removed any diplomatic corps. We have declared it one of the most unsafe countries in the entire country. So tell me why we're going to remove temporary protective status and send so many of these people back into an environment where they can be killed or harmed or taken hostage. It is a failure of our values to recognize that, but it's also fairly foolish for our economy as well.
There's a saying that was on the line for you to tell me, hello. I agree. My next question, while foreign policies is a federal responsibility, Florida is home to one of the largest Haitian population in the United States. And when events in Haiti happen, it directly impacts the Haitian population here in the United States. We all feel it. Whether we want to admit it or not, we all have to support. We all have to send back home. So while others may not understand what immigrants go through. I'm sharing it with you today so that you can understand it from an Haitian American immigrant. Every time something happens in Haiti, every Haitian in America feels it. Every Haitian. So with that being said, if you are, since you are being elected as the governor, we're speaking it into existence, what kind of help would you offer to the Haitian communities that are right here in the United States that have to go through this crisis? And what role do you believe that Florida should play in supporting those families?
Yeah. So thank you for that. First is a zealous advocacy to the federal government, right? Our governor currently is just laid down. He's the governor, he's a Republican governor. He could be advocating for the White House right now to extend TPS. He could be advocating for greater care, for greater financial investment and financial aid to disrupted communities. He could be creating a state where there's refuge for those who are able to get out of Haiti. So part of it is between the advocacy and the values. What I will tell you, and I'm going to end by asking your help on this, I'm going to share with you my leadership style, but the next thing is, I do think we always want to be conscious. Not to look at a single community and think they only care about one thing. And I say this just as a caution to myself and everyone. Every community needs an economy that's working, where their housing, their healthcare, and their education is secure. And sometimes Republicans and Democrats, we're at fault of this as Democrats in South Florida the past couple of cycles. You go to an immigrant community and you think the only issue must be immigration. Folks, we all share the same concerns about our own cost of living, where we're raising our kids, whether we can get healthcare and so forth. But I would say when it comes to communities that suffer such disruption, this is an area where the stability of financial investment in certain services, human services, relief organizations, community services can provide additional support and stability. But where I end this though and asking for your help is this. I have this quip that I use that sometimes gets a laugh. I say, our current governor is not the smartest person in the state. Right? But the quip is your next governor is not going to be either. The difference is I realize that and DeSantis doesn't. My point is, my leadership style is not to lead out front, it's to lead shoulder to shoulder. I'm trying to build a bigger table with a coalition of subject matter experts, people with different lived experiences, capable of addressing exactly this problem. I will never understand the answer to your question better than you know the answer to your question. And I say that because this is what this coalition is about. I need the subject matter experts in healthcare and higher education and secondary and childhood education. I need your counsel in how we provide for a disrupted immigrant community, particularly Haitian community, that feels the ripple effect of everything that happens in the country. My job is to give you a voice on how we address it.
Thank you so much. This is not a question, but a remark. I would like for you, if possible, because as you know, as of yesterday, or as of midnight, TPS expired. So they keep putting expiration dates on TPS, thus enticing fear in our community. So I would like for you to please look at the cameras and give a word of support to my community.
The Haitian American community is suffering by bad and irresponsible decisions by our president to try to end temporary protective status. It's a moral wrong, it's economically foolish, and it violates the principles of who we are as Americans, and it violates our national unity. I think we need our congressional delegation in the state of Florida, our federal leaders, and our governor to advocate for the extension of TPS because they could do it tomorrow if they chose to. As governor, I will do everything I can to work to extend temporary protective status for Haitian.
We have a couple of questions from the Democratic. Sorry about that, change the program.
Thank you. I know though, I'm speaking to existence. So, first thing I want to say, this is what democracy looks like. I want to challenge it first. As a leader, first thing, once you get elected, I want to make sure you see us, hear us, and value us. Once you get elected, so that's first. A lot of things go on. We hear a lot of rhetoric, people talking, but I want to make sure once you get elected, those are the three things to look at to make sure you understand who we are as people. But the question I want to ask you, you were a lifelong Republican before recently becoming a Democrat. How will your past Republican values influence your decision as a Democrat, especially on issues important to our Black community, such as ensuring Black communities receive the same opportunities, resources, investments as other private communities? Because we know that we go around in different places in Orlando. I go to Lake Donald, I go to different places, come over here in our communities here, and they're not thriving.
That's right.
They're not thriving.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Let's have an honest conversation about it. I do first want to recognize somebody who came in, State Representative Anna Escamon. By the way, I don't know if Ms. Maxwell is still here, if she's in the room. We got a very special birthday, right? Today. Happy birthday. Listen, this is an important conversation. Let's open up the lens a little bit. And I appreciate the root of your question because it's a question I often get. You were a Republican. Sure. 8 years ago, I was a Republican. My journey started 8 years ago, not just, 8 weeks ago. Some areas I haven't changed. Some areas I have changed, right? I spoke about the values. Some of those values I tried to exercise as a Republican. I was a Bush 41 Republican in the Tea Party era, and it never clicked, it never worked. I fought the Tea Party, I fought the Freedom Caucus, I fought Trumpism. I lost all those fights. And as I said to Bill Maher, I want my kids to know that I stayed and I fought, but I want them to know that sometimes there are fights you walk away from. So yes, mine's a story of change, specifically on this issue. I will tell you what I believe from a point of my Christian faith, but also as an attorney and someone, a student of history. The disparate impacts in Black and brown communities today, in many pockets, are greater than they've ever been. The economic disparity, the wealth disparity between Black and white communities today is greater than the day Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. The disparity in education opportunities and the disparity in health outcomes is greater in Black communities than in white communities. I'll be very honest with you. I recognize that and Byron Novels doesn't. Let's be very specific about this. I'll tell you one thing I learned as a Republican. Once I caught on, I started to realize, no, the gig's up here. I don't know what decade it was where the Republicans started embracing the language equality of opportunity. And it sounds good and it feels good and it seems to make sense. But, here's the trick. Republicans talk about equality of opportunity as though it's the last chapter in the book and we can close the cover on it. Equality of opportunity is a calling for policy changes. Equality of opportunity has not been achieved. A kid born 5 miles to the north of mine tonight does not have the same opportunities. They don't even have the same access to transportation. They don't have the same access to healthcare. They don't have the same access to education, to home ownership, to career opportunities. That disparity is real. And so what did I do as a campaign, as a candidate, to demonstrate not just my commitment, right? A lot of times we talk about diversity as though it's an ideal. No, diversity is an improvement in policy outcomes. It improves our qualitative outcomes of our policies when we have diverse leadership. And so I wanted our campaign to reflect the diversity of our state, and I want our administration to look like this state. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I think we need to reshape the state university system in a dramatic way. I specifically went to FAMU, and I asked a foundation board member at FAMU to help lead our higher education cohort of advisors, if you will. And yes, I knew about the import of FAMU, but I didn't know then what I learned from working with Lawrence, which is that in my lifetime, there was a moment, years
where FAMU had more national merit scholars than Harvard. Than Harvard. This isn't about diversity, this is about excellence. This is about excellence. And so, yes, while we recognize the special designation as an HBCU, there should be other designations. FAMU should be a flagship university of the state of Florida. It should be an R1 research university in the state of Florida. We owe them $2 billion.
That's right.
We owe them $2 billion. When I went to build an economic development team, I went to 2 county commissioners of color, one in Escambia, one in Pinellas. And I said, help me lead the economic development conversation from a place where we are leading with your district, not relying on trickle-down benefits to hit your district. When the Supreme Court issued the Calais decision, I wrestled, I'm not reflexive, I'm a little wonky. I wrestled with what do we need to do? What's the next chapter look like? So I called Reverend Sharpton and I said, help me envision how Florida leads the next voting rights era from the South. And as a result, it led me to propose an Office of Civil Rights within the governor's office, because I don't trust this Attorney General, folks. I don't trust him. An Office of Civil Rights, not just to deal with voting rights, but also to deal with the economic, health, and educational disparities I mentioned. And yes, guess what? I called Desmond Meade. And I asked him if he would consider being a part of our Office of Civil Rights because of the great work he did on voting rights restoration. When you recognize the discriminant impacts of centuries of discriminant policies, you feel the calling to fix it. Look, I only bring my lived experience. All of us in this room, we only bring our lived experience. The calling on us is to stand shoulder to shoulder together to make sure we're achieving the excellence that can be achieved with the diversity.
Sir, I'm Chris. I am the first Vice President of Orange County Democratic Black Caucus, the largest caucus in the state of Florida. Unlike our sister group that is here today, we are not partisan. We are not neutral. We are partisan. So I'm going to be asking you some tough questions.
Good.
Going forward, all right? First off, thank you for being here. And I want to go into the state that we're in. When I first moved to Florida, it was 2005. It was very different. The landscape, Jeb was president. The Supreme Court here was very different. Now we have one of the most conservative Supreme Courts. We can see a lot of things happen here. Florida has become a petri dish of what the Trump administration is doing. DeSantis is doing things that are working here, and Trump is trying to get it up to him. And this is rolling out like a conveyor belt. And a lot of people in Florida are not aware of it. But it didn't just start with DeSantis. I want to go back through a little bit of the history of Florida to kind of lay the groundwork of what my question is, if you can follow along. We've come to a place where education has become political, just educating people. If we go with education and you say you really understand things, your eyes are open, you might even say you're woke, which is already a 4-letter word they're using that is interchangeable with DEI, which is a 3-letter acronym that actually means inclusion and many other things that made Florida great when I first moved here. But it did not start again with DeSantis. Florida was the 3rd state to secede during the Civil War. Florida has the largest Confederate flag in the world on the corner of I-75 and I-4. Yes. Florida has multiple lynchings and what are they called? Race riots, which are not really race riots, they're just massacres. We have Rosewood. We have Ocoee. We have all of this history here. We have July period that's named Old Orange County right downtown. Those things sound like they're way in the past. But then we go forward to Martin Luther King, who was quoted as saying St. Augustine was one of the most violent places he ever marched at. We don't think about that with St. Augustine. And you think it maybe would stop with Martin Luther King. It has not. Florida still has one of the most extremist identities in this country. And I'm not saying that as hyperbole. After January 6th, Florida had to have a Capitol Hill police detachment open up in St. Pete. Out of all 50 states, there is that much radicalization. There is that much taking our country back energy here. And unfortunately, this is a thing that comes from conservative wings. You, once upon a time, were with the conservative wing. What have you learned since that time, whenever you have crossed now over to the enlightenment? And speaking to yourself in the past, what would you hope that you had learned earlier on so that you can stand on the stage and we can be running for you and with you?
Yeah, so Thank you for that question. I want to be very clear, and I mean this respectfully, and I understand the passion and the honesty of your question. I was never a part of that wing of the fund, ever, ever. My father was a Jimmy Carter progressive evangelist. They got run out of West Georgia in the 60s, my parents did, with a Klan cross burning in their yard. Because my father had the audacity to baptize a young woman of color, but the deacon said, if you do this, you're gone. As I mentioned, the burial boat, that our church went from being just a traditional English-speaking church to all of a sudden having 6 multilingual services throughout the week. You can call it being raised with ministry. I never subscribed to that wing of the party, but everything I fought. In fact, when the Klan rallied in Day City with my brother who went down there, and we all feared, I was about 10 years old, but we all feared what was going to happen. My organization is not in that wing. I rejected it when I was a Republican. It was part of what I fought against. It was some of the battles that I lost. It's also part of the reason I left. So you know when I really broke from the party? In 2016, when Donald Trump ran for president, I was the only Republican. I say this not for reasons of vanity, but I want you to understand this. I fought the Tea Party, fought the Freedom Caucus. Donald Trump emerges, and I say absolutely not, no way. I didn't endorse him. I had endorsed Jeb Bush. He was running for president at the time as well. I don't know if Jeb was still in or out of the race when this moment happened, but it's December of 2015. Donald Trump called for the Muslim ban. Muslim ban. How easy the politics of Islamophobia can be in the Republican Party. It's just accepted. And somehow it can be tolerated and it's part of the platform. Instead, I went to the House floor and became the only Republican member in the 2016 cycle to call on Donald Trump to drop out of the race. And what I did is I said, Mr. Speaker, I stand here as a born-again Christian who believes in the saving grace of Jesus Christ, who I call my God. And the beautiful thing about this is I can stand in front of the Congress and I can stand in front of the country and I can share my personal expression of faith, but if Donald Trump has his way, we may not be able to do that anymore. So yes, I agree with you who let us into this. But I need to make sure it is clear that I was never part of that caucus, and if anything, I fought against it. I will also tell you, as an appropriator, I was the one that worked with Democrats to fund social services and empowerment programs. I got the awards from the Early Childhood Education Program and many of the community investment organizations. But I admit that I was part of a party that when I thought we were fighting for the equality of opportunity, I realized I was being misled, right? I just shared that story. I also have shared with you why I believe I need to take the policies I need to, why I've elevated people into leadership that understand the issues greater than I do, why I have people to accept counsel from. At the end of the day, I don't think, as I said earlier, the problem in politics are people who are on the road to change. I think the problem in politics are people who won't change. I would be ashamed to be a part of that caucus and that coalition you mentioned. I would have been ashamed then. And so what I can share with you is I agree with the premise of your question. I agree that the work is still in front of us. I've shared with you where I think the discriminant impact remains today and what we need to do to fix it. And ultimately, that is on the ballot this election. I think we're at a crossroads in Florida history. This is it. This is it. They have gotten away with tip of the spear. I don't even call it conservatism, whatever you want to call it. They've gotten away with tip of the spear issues. And part of this election is stopping the democracy.
Fascism. There's different acronyms we can spell with. Okay, just one more question for you, Stephanie. Yes. All right, yeah, this is going into education, which is important, and this is a 3-part for you as a man, as a governor, and then as governor being executive, and then also what you can switch legislatively. Education is a very big point into how we got here in this education. And I want to make sure that we are pushing forward someone that's going to correct the wrongs of the past by ensuring that We don't have petri dishes like New Hope College, which has now become an abomination of what it used to be. And Florida was what it used to be with education. 23% of Floridians are immigrants at this time, and a lot of people aren't understanding the dynamics of Florida that comes in. For example, I'm part of the Orange County Democratic Black Caucus, and it was the 1965 Immigration Act that opened up immigration so we could have almost 1 in 4 people to come here. Is there a way that you as a man, from an executive standpoint and also from a legislative standpoint, can ensure that education, correct education, which is the only kind I know, is pushed to the forefront and we're no longer marred in this recurring cycle of ignorance that we have in front of us?
Yeah, very quickly to revisit, look, I think we need a 10-year, let's talk about secondary education, elementary secondary education, and then talk about the state university system. I think we need a 10-year renaissance in public education. Using tourist development tax dollars to move our teachers into the top half of the pay nationally, we covered, Anna also wants to use it for transportation and workforce housing. We'll start with local control and then we'll add on to do education and so forth. Look, I think we should lead the world in public education. I talked about this. The way to fund it, I believe, is instead of using tourist development tax dollars. We currently use it for more tourism. That's great. Nobody's going to credit the tourism industry, but we don't have a crisis of convention centers in the state of Florida. We don't have a crisis of theme parks. We got a crisis in public education. I mentioned, look, the way we bring back the books and teach history and all of history is by appointing an education commissioner that's going to unlock teachers with their own academic freedom and ability to instruct kids. We can do a lot of this immediately. On the higher education system, I was at FIU recently, and I declared from the podium, I said, we're done with letting politicians fail up into the presidencies of state universities. Anyone knows the history of FIU? I wasn't saying that in friendly confines, because our former lieutenant governor seemed to fail up into the presidency of FIU. But look, what we know, not just Duke College, but what happened at University of West Florida, what happened at FIU, what happened at other schools, frankly, arguably what happened at FAMU, is this governor decided to ideologically reshape education in the state of Florida, and I think it's wrong. So we have built a SUS, a state university system team, ready to go on day one, that has already modeled out what's the future of the state university system look like. The number one principle is institutional autonomy. Second is leaders who understand how to run higher educational universities, not politicians. We include academic excellence, academic advancement, we include opportunity, and yes, we include diversity as part of that educational experience. Listen, diversity can challenge us in a very, very powerful and real way. When I graduated from Pasco High, again, if you knew Dade City in the 80s, folks, wonderful little town off the edge of the earth. I went from that environment to Emory University, a liberal arts university, and I thought I was going to some southern school. And instead, what I got confronted with was teachings that I had never been exposed to. Ever. And sure, as a student, it shocked, and at the time, at 17, 18 years old, I felt threatened, like my values were being threatened. But you know what it did? It allowed me to grow in my perspective of the world, to have a greater understanding. It strengthened me, it made me more capable. Look, I want my kids to be exposed to all of these chapters of history because it creates more capable young people able to lead their community, but also able to create opportunities for themselves. Education is a central part of this platform, and that includes the 10-year renaissance in public education and reshaping the state university systems.
Thank you.
Awesome. You're not out of the hot seat yet. What we want to do is open it up for the audience. So if any of you have some questions that you would like to ask, I'm going to come around to you. Make your question very direct and brief. We have to be out of the room at a specific time. So I'm going to come to you, you're going to ask the question, spit it out, and then we're going to move on. So I'm going to ask you to keep your
I'll give the answers
answers
time. It's never the number of questions, it's the length of the answers. I apologize.
First of all, I followed you on Facebook, and one of the things that really hit me, my name is Michael. I'm actually the first person in the state of Florida to get supported decision-making recognized in the entire state. That was signed by Governor DeSantis. But you talked a lot about special needs, autism, disabilities, which hit really close to my heart. One of our biggest champions, Anna Escamani, who has been a complete cheerleader for the disability community. But I have one problem. Our local governor has never showed up to Family Cafe. He has never showed up to our Developmental Disability Awareness Day press conferences. So as governor, will you fight for our individuals with disabilities? Will you show up to Family Cafe? And will you show up on the National Mall at Tallahassee and advocate for us and do the press conference for the governor?
Yeah, you bet. The answer is yes, and yes, and thank you for sharing your story and for asking this question. When we talk about the responsible administration of government, let me open the aperture here, and I will keep it tight. Folks, the disability community in the state of Florida is probably the most overlooked community in the entire state. The number of people it impacts, we don't realize. I'll give Jeb Bush credit. 25 years ago, this state had no waiting list when you applied for services and you were eligible for services, no waiting list for services, education, housing, community care, so forth. Today, that wait list is over 14 years. 14 years, because we have abandoned investing in services that benefit our disabled community. And so the way the wait list works is you have to present a crisis to move to the front of the list. And it's wrong. We've built a team right now of counselors on exactly this issue. The current move is to move towards managed care. If the federal government rolls back the Olmstead decision, they're going to try to move to institutional care. And I've said as governor, we don't have to honor that. We'll make sure we're committed to community and home-based care, independent living. We have to make sure the wages of our care providers continue to increase. We have to make sure that educational opportunities are there. Listen, I'm with you 1,000% on this. Some of you will likely hear, because I know my opponent hits me on this a lot. The one scandal that they're going to try to, well, I don't know, they're going to raise a lot of scandals. There's a very bad man in the special needs industry in the state of Florida, and I worked for him as an employee about 15 years ago. And my opponents have already started bringing it up. And so I'm happy to have the conversation. I do press interviews and I say, look, I'm taking the anti-Rick Scott approach. Rick Scott, who hides from the truth and flees the Fed. No, ask me questions. I'm asking for your trust. I'm asking for the public trust. Where there are questions about this case, bring them to me. I'll answer them. We have a video online explaining my employment status with him and the fact that I had, no visibility to his financial management. But here's what I said about it. I say this is a person of faith. There's a Bible verse that says, what my enemies intended for harm, I use for good. Go ahead and bring up that story if you're Byron Donalds, because I'll answer any question you want about it. And then I'm going to turn and ask a question about why we've abandoned the disability community in the state of Florida. Because we are near death last. We are near death last. I got your back on this.
Mr. Donnelly, I'm a retired city manager, retired in March, most of that here in Florida. The biggest threats to cities and counties in Florida is Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Unfunded mandates, the tax scheme that we get to vote on in November. As governor, what would you do to become a partner with city and counties in Florida and not an adversary?
Yeah, you know what I love about this? I get to use old school Republican language. I still believe in local control. And the government goes to see the people themselves. And let me tell you, I stood up and addressed the Florida Association of Counties a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize, because of gerrymandering, how Republican that room was. And about 5 minutes into the speech, I could tell, this isn't really working. There's a many lawsuit. You know what I did? I said, I want to stop for a minute. I said, most of you know I used to be a Republican. I was an independent, today I'm a Democrat, and I'm here to tell you that I understand the truth that you know to be true as well. That for 10 years, your local authority has come under attack from this Republican governor through preemption. And the property tax repeal is the ultimate preemption, where they're trying to remove your ability to determine the direction of your local community. Frankly, so much of the DEI wars have been an attack on local control, the ability to pay a bureau. Listen, I still subscribe fully to local control. So where we can remove preemption, we'll do it every step of the way. Where we can do it through executive order, we'll do it through executive order. Where we need to litigate, we'll do that. Where we have to work with the legislature because it's now been embedded in code, we will do that. you know, on the data center conversation, this is an area that has to be prevented for local control, and I'll just share with you how I see it. I think we need a moratorium on data centers, because I don't think we have the environmental protections in place, we protect those, and they're rushing into an unregulated environment, and they're paying off all our politicians. There's a reason that FPL and TICO just said their profit margin will go up as a result of the law that Tallahassee just passed. And what Byron Donalds considers as ratepayer protection just means that he's gonna let them plunder all the natural resources they want as long as they pay for it. Well, I don't think we should let them plunder. And so, but in test, what part is local control and where should the state step in? I do think on this issue, the reason a statewide moratorium makes sense is because drawing down the aquifer has a statewide impact on our water resources. And so as a governor, I would issue that executive order and let them take it. On the economic development of data centers, I don't think that actually makes sense either. I think it not only devalues properties, but we have all the economic development